Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. It's time for episode 8 of Just Take 3 with me, Andrew Musgrave.
Me, Sam Mulliner. Hello.
You're right, keeping well.
Yeah, well, it's not about me, is it? It's about you. You're the one that is running the Great North Run again. Well done.
Thank you.
How was it?
Yeah, it was good. I think our listeners will be sick of me telling everyone how good of an afternoon I had because I did it in 2:11, which was well under my 3 hour target, although it was spoiled slightly, and I'm not bitter about it. Spoiled slightly by the fact that Aaron Stokes beat by 20 seconds, and this is now the third time I've mentioned it this week, so it will be the last time. But look, everyone running for great causes, great afternoon, great to see so many people out despite the fact that it was chucking it down. And yeah, a good Sunday was had.
So, Aaron beat you. Did you start together at the same time?
No, we didn't. He started a few waves back, but he managed to beat me by 20 seconds, which
But
will
you still finished before him because of the kind of traffic.
because it's a staggered start, so I've
Right.
started ahead of him. But the overall time was 20 seconds.
Is
Which
2:11 good? What are we? I'm not
yeah,
a, I'm not a runsman.
I think 2 hours is probably kind of the average time if you've got that underlying fitness. But I'm happy with 2:11. I would like closer to 2, but I'll take 2:11 considering I was aiming for under 3 hours because I did no training. As you will be able to relate to, Sam, once you have kids, the time to do anything other than look after the kids kind of goes out the window. You don't have time to go for a run or to the
Is that a
gym.
bit of a humble brag that you're saying that you've done a good time without doing any training?
It is in one way, but it's also maybe a bit of a regret. Like, imagine if I had done a few long distance runs. I mean, the only distance I did was was 5K, park run every other weekend. So imagine what I'd done had I actually pounded the pavement properly. But there's always next year. I'll be back at the start line next year, and hopefully, we'll get under 2 hours, which is the aim. But yeah, it was a good a good Sunday. Obviously, very sad to hear that one chap sadly died doing the race. So thoughts with his friends and family. Very sad news.
It is. It is. It is. How much money did you raise?
Well, collectively, let me just double
No,
check.
no, don't get on because you had other people in your group with the likes of
Collectively, we've raised
Culkin.
£3,274, which is fantastic. And because we all had uh, the same Just Given page, so we've
Oh,
all
okay. You're
chipped
not
in.
you're not clinging on to Culkin's coattails then.
Oh no. So people have just kind of chipped in themselves, family members, friends. I put some money into it as well. So yeah, just under 4 grand, which is absolutely
Oh
fantastic.
well done, well done. Good. You can do it again next year.
Oh well, I'll do it until my knees give in. Are we going to see you at the start line next year?
Nope.
Do you know you're the third person I've asked this week who's been on this podcast, and that's the third no I've had.
I have been asked by, I've had this conversation now with about 6 or 7 different people.
And you're just not tempted?
Nope.
It's a wonderful, wonderful day. It really is.
Okay, good.
Okay. I mean, each to their own. It's not for everybody. It's not for
No, it's
everybody.
not for me. I hate running. If I could drive it, I enjoy driving, and I could do it sub 2 hours. I mean, I got to Milton Keynes and back, not from Newcastle, I should say, listeners, if you're worrying about speeding. I obeyed the speed limit at all times. I live in the Midlands, but I got to Milton Keynes in sub 2 hours
Well, I
for
would, I
work.
would, I would, I would hope that if you were driving the course of the Great North Run, which is what 13.1 miles, you would definitely be able to do it under sub 2 hours. Because if you were going, if it took you any more than 20
Well,
minutes, you'd have an issue.
it depends on traffic these days. Getting over the Tyne Bridge is something else at the minute, isn't it? Am I right?
Yeah, unless you're running it during the Great North Run, which it was an absolute breeze. But yeah, you don't want to be driving over the Tyne Bridge anytime soon. You'll be
But
stuck in traffic all morning.
I'm not. I'm not doing the Great North Run anyway. I'm too fat.
That's that put to bed then. Fantastic.
I'm
You
not
have
fit.
picked this week's category for Just Take Three. Let me
Yeah.
just set it up once again. You've crashed on a desert island. You are scurrying around for food and water and shelter, but somehow you have the ability to watch highlight reels of certain Newcastle United moments and players and categories. And this week's category is.
We're doing Unsung Heroes this week, which I saw you put a tweet about. So have you struggled?
I think, do you know what it is? It's one of those, the definition again can be stretched. And I was just thinking about my three, and I had one straight away. There was one person I was always going to include, but after that, it's a little bit difficult to nail down because I think it's open to such interpretation. Some of the names that came in on the back of that tweet, like Killer Klein for if I can get out me lips there, Brian
Yeah.
Klein for example. Like, is he an unsung hero? Because I don't think he is. I think in the mind of most, he's the Kieran Trippier of the entertainers era. He's the one that started it. He was the one that, the manager really depended on to get them out of the trouble that they were in at the time. I don't for a second think he's an unsung hero. A few other names got me thinking. Clown Sakuna was one of them. Yeah, probably a person who doesn't get shouted about a lot, but was he ever good enough to be shouted about? Is probably the comeback on that.
Uh,
I was just trying to get a feel for people's suggestions. I mean, Darren Peacock was an interesting one, and someone in the office actually said Darren Peacock as well.
yeah.
Again, putting him in that same category as Killer because I don't think he's underrated. I don't think he's unsung. I think people know exactly how good he was. He was trying to hold back the water, when the dam burst every time the rest of his teammates went forward. And yes, okay, maybe didn't get the recognition. He didn't maybe get the England call-ups and what have you. But I do think Newcastle United fans hold him in really high esteem, and I don't think he's underrated or unsung at all. So it was just about trying to nail down probably the definition of unsung. So what is the definition?
Well, like you said there, you may have been hoisted by your own petard, really, when it comes to Darren Peacock, because he very nearly made mine. Um, I kind of, yeah, it's just someone who doesn't quite get the credit they deserved at the time, maybe, or certainly now. One of my selection is more so at the time. But I too had asked for people's opinions on this, but more so in my own. Um, well, I asked the fellow Newcastle fan TV team for their thoughts last night, and there was a couple there that I sort of dismissed. Peter Lovenkrands being one. I love Lovenkrands, but how can he be an unsung hero where we still literally have a song for him that gets sung in every away game now?
Hmm.
That's the most literal sense of the word. So yeah, it's a tricky one. But if you've got one that absolutely was nailed on, you can go first.
Well, it's not a player. It's someone connected to Newcastle United. So I might be bending the rules slightly. Yeah,
Is it a female?
it is.
I nearly put Kath in as well, the
Yeah,
tea lady.
yeah, Kath Cassidy, the tea lady. She worked in the press room, worked with the managers, worked with all the players. 1963 till 2015, October 2015, when she retired at the age of 88. She died a few years later. And she was a proper part of Newcastle United for all those years. Absolutely, part of the fixtures and fittings. And she was a lovely lady. I met her a few times. And the reason she's on my list is because if I'm stuck on a desert island having a tough time of it,
You
and
want a
I'm
cup of tea?
hungry and I'm sunburned, well, yeah, I would love a cup of tea, but also just to have the chance to watch that moment that she brings out a cup of tea for Graham Souness as he's sitting in between
Oh,
Lee Bowyer and Kieran Dyer after they've gone at one another after that defeat to Aston Villa at St James's Park. Probably the most embarrassing moments in Newcastle United's history. Two players fighting on the pitch in front of a sellout crowd, scandalous even to this day. And the atmosphere in the room, it's tense, and you can tell that Souness has given them a right telling off behind closed doors. They've been forced to come out, apologise, was it a genuine apology at the time? It certainly didn't look it. And Kath Cassidy just comes out of nowhere with a cup of tea for Souness, and it just kind of, you know, brings the mood into a lighter shade than it was 30 seconds before she plopped down that cup of tea on the desk. And I think that would just bring a smile to your face. And for those 30 seconds of that clip, it would wash all your worries away.
Yeah, I can't believe we were on the same wavelength here. We didn't plan that. I genuinely, um, yeah, was going to put her in my three as well for the exact same reasoning. So, um, I can add another one now. But yeah, I've nothing more to add. Just absolute the the archetype unsung hero of a community football club. Really, she would have seen so much over so many years, and yeah, that moment was absolutely legendary.
Yeah, certainly was, and there's obviously lots of tributes to paid to her when she died back in 2017 at the age of 90. Alan Shearer said she was devoted to Newcastle and always made me smile. I made the very best tea. You had Warren Barton describing her as a great lady. You had Kevin Keegan describing her as irreplaceable, and the club obviously paid their own tributes as well. And yeah, she was just. I mean, I remember going for a kind of work experience, and I got to go to a game. And obviously, I'm a little bit starstruck at the time. It's the first time in the press room, and I've got hopes and ambitions of being a journalist and covering Newcastle United. So I'm kind of invited in, and then I'm left to my own devices. And she came over. She could see that I was looking lost, to put it politely, and looking a little bit, yeah, starstruck, as as I've already said there. And she made me feel right at home, made me a brew, introduced me to a few people, and then I got settled in, and it was a great evening. I think it was
Ah,
I think it was Man City. Do you know how um we mentioned Bay last in the last episode of him getting himself sent off for a great
yeah.
tackle? Pretty sure it was that game actually. Um, yeah, and she just got me settled in, and it was just a really nice moment because she had a lot to do. She didn't need to do that, but yeah, it was a lovely gesture. And there's a lot of great people who work behind the scenes in the press room, serving up the dinners and still making the tea to this day, and working in hospitality and stuff. A lot of people who put their heart and soul into making it the very best experience, whether that be for punters or whether that be for journalists who will never get the recognition on a podcast like this. So it's great to be able to give Kath that recognition because she thoroughly deserved it for all the hard work she put in.
That's lovely. I had no idea you had your own sort of personal experience with her. What who got you starstruck in the press room? Because
Uh,
that seems to be a weird. All right, I appreciate that. I have a lot of admiration for a lot of journalists as well, but out of a stadium on match day, the press room is probably the least kind of awestruck I'd be.
yeah, but I think when you've always had ambitions to be a journalist, and I'd always had, from a very, very young age. I mean, I still got a letter that I wrote to the ex-editor here at the Chronicle. I mean, you were talking 3 or 4 editors now ago, asking how to get into journalism. I must have only been about 7 or 8. So it was always my ambition to be a journalist for the Chronicle. So and to cover Newcastle United. So when you're first presented with that opportunity, you are kind of wow. Okay, this is surreal. I'm in the press box at St James's Park ahead of a big match. It's like wow, okay. And I think I can't. I mean, I think it would have been just the journalists who worked here at the time. So it would have been Mark Douglas. I think Neil Cameron was probably still here. Whether John would have been there, but he probably wasn't, in the main part of it because he kind of sits around the corner from everybody. But yeah, I think maybe just the moment itself got the better of me as a very young man. Because I would have only been. I'm not even going to try and guess how old I would have been. But yeah, so she just made me feel at home, which was dead nice.
That's fantastic. That really is. Yeah, and yeah, it's great that we were able to give her a bit of recognition, and it is people like that that make the football club really. And I sort of remember when I was to go off on a bit of a tangent, watching the documentary on Netflix regarding Sunderland, which is hilarious. Particularly the first season. It's an absolute wonderful comedy. But the people that I feel sorry for and have sympathy with are the kind of the cooks, the people that work in the ticket office, these people that aren't on the millions and millions of pounds that the players on the pitch are on, but are so dependent on them doing well because their jobs are depending on it. I had a
Yeah,
mate of mine who lost his job, who used to work for West Brom. I mean, he's bounced back now. He works for Villa and he's in the Champions League. But he lost his job when West Brom went down when under Darren Moore, um, because those are the people that got to go to save money. So it's crap in that sense. And those are the people that really truly make football clubs great.
could have said it better. So yeah, really nice that we can pay tribute to Kath in that way, and to everyone else that even today with all the money that Newcastle United have got and the prestige that comes with it. There's some people who are still working there 15, 20 years after they started and make it what it is. And you're right, it's the heart and soul of the community. You need those people to still be there, to still put in all the effort, because without them, the football club is nothing, is it? So, yeah, some great people still working there, which is fantastic. Do you want to go next with your
Yeah,
second pick?
mine. So mine are all players on the back of that. But I'm really glad we
Oh, so
got
you
to do
didn't
that
actually
little.
pick Kath. You were
No, I
thinking
did,
about
but
it.
I will go on because again, it was hard nailing down a third because there was so many. So yeah, I've gone for all players now. First one, an absolute penalty kick of one, Aaron Hughes.
So I
Um,
knew you were going to pick him.
yeah, yeah, and that's absolutely fine because he is probably the most obvious one. Um, and I think we mentioned the other week, didn't I? I don't think we should have got rid of him when we did. And he was always in the forefront of my mind for doing this. Just could play anywhere along the back line and do a great job at doing so. Would never ever let you down, and probably, do you know what? Considering how kind of whoopsie daisy our defence could be, just up until the signing of Jonathan Woodgate, Aaron Hughes was probably the best all round defender we had.
Well, a lot of
Thoughts?
people have said Aaron Hughes actually in that tweet that I and the responses to the tweet. But again, I ask, when you've played 205 games for Newcastle United, can you really be an unsung hero?
Yes. Did he ever have a song after him? Literally.
No, I guess not. But then
Did he? Was there outcry when he was sold?
I think there was a little bit of kick-off from memory. I mean, not massive fallout, but I think there was
Well,
enough
that's why,
people.
because he was an unsung hero. There wasn't major outcry because he was a headline name, but the kind of just that rumbling of a bit disappointment shows just he was important to the team and the squad as a whole. Yeah, I think he absolutely can be an unsung hero. Unsung heroes can have longevity, and I think most of them actually do. Yeah, I think this was just like on a player standpoint. I think this is just the most obvious one.
Mhm. So it'd be your first pick, your first choice.
I didn't realise there was any order to them.
No, no, you just said it's the most obvious one, so I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
I'll just get that out of the way.
Um,
You disagree?
no, no, I mean, he did come into my line of thinking when I was thinking about unsung heroes, but I'm just getting lost and tangled in this whole the definition of it, because
I
you
mean,
play
don't
that many.
overthink it.
No, I know, and that's my downfall. So he did come to my way of thinking, but I mean, I absolutely loved him as a player. I really, really loved him as a player. I thought he was, he's just so versatile and could fill in
Yes,
so many positions, as you say, and he always give us all great head of the ball as well. And yeah, he reminds me of a bit of like Emil Kraft. We've got Emil Kraft today, who's Mr. Versatile, doesn't get the love and the appreciation that I think he deserves, because first and foremost, he's a very, very capable Premier League defender, and he's shown that as he's had to fill in for Fabian Schär, and when he's had to fill in for Kieran Trippier, in the season's gone. He just doesn't get that appreciation that I think he warrants. And I do see, in my view anyway, a comparison between the two, Hughes and Kraft.
I think Hughes is better.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think Hughes is probably the better defender, but I don't think there's much in it.
No, that's fair. That's fair. That's probably right. Actually, Kraft as well had an especially difficult sort of opening time at the club as well, didn't he? And I don't think he was. He didn't warm to fans easily because he didn't start great. Um,
Well, it was an
same.
underwhelming signing, wasn't he? Like, he was one of those signs that didn't get
Yeah,
you out of your seat.
I would put Kraft more in the category maybe of James Perch than Aaron Hughes.
Well, James Perch is another one who's been mentioned quite a lot on the responses I got. Again, a very versatile player, so I can see that. But yeah, when it comes to Aaron Hughes, did come to my way of thinking, but I didn't put him down. But I can understand why you have and why quite a few people have.
Went on to have such a really great career as well. Played on and on and on. Kept himself at the peak of physical fitness, much like you with your Great North running. But you know, he played into his 40s, which is for an outfield player, you know, whatever level, it's still rare. Um, we can't all be goalkeepers that sit on the bench and say, "Oh, I'm playing until I'm 43," but you haven't had a run of games since you were like 34. But yeah, no, Aaron Hughes just leapt off the page as the most obvious one, I would think.
Well, my second pick is not an obvious one, and it's one that I'm going to get absolute pelts for in the comments. So I've prepared myself for it because, again, getting lost and getting tangled up in the definition, I've gone for something completely the other end, right at the other extreme. I can guarantee people listening and watching this will never have guessed that this person would be on my list. And I know you're going to
Are
have a
we
go at
about
it.
to have an argument?
Oh, we are. But I am sticking with it because I think what this man offered in the very brief time he was at Newcastle United was actually really crucial to the end goal of getting promoted, winning the championship title with 102 points. And he only played a small part, but without him, Newcastle United wouldn't have had it as easy as they did getting back
Oh,
to the Premier League. Go on then, do you want to have a guess?
now there is someone that fits this bill that we discussed in the NFTV WhatsApp group last night. Is it Wayne Routledge?
It's not, but that's not a bad shout. It is Marlon Harewood.
Oh, for God's sake.
Now, just bear with us.
Oh,
Just
someone
bear with us.
mentioned that in the
I've,
WhatsApp group last night, and I just laughed him off.
I have gone for someone who will never be talked about when you look back on that season. But if you actually delve in the goals he scored, and admittedly, he only scored 5. He only scored 5. But no, but they were in games that Newcastle United, obviously, they won 3 of them, which helped them get promoted. And at the time he came in, Newcastle United was suffering with injuries. He was coming back from an injury, so he had a point to prove. Newcastle United maybe didn't have any cash really to spend that summer. So they had to be
No, but
clever.
we still had Carroll, Lovenkrands, Nolan,
Yeah,
Ranger.
okay, granted.
You know,
But he still played 15 games from that September to December. Still
so
scored 5 goals.
1 in 3 in the championship. Yeah.
Very crucial, though. Very crucial goal. Scored in his second game against QPR, 1-1 draw. Scored in the Peterborough
We
victory,
played crap
3-1.
that night as well. That was at home, that draw to
Yeah,
QPR.
but, important equaliser. Swansea scored a double, and Newcastle won 2-0. And then he scored in the derby against Middlesbrough. Are we counting as a derby? Tyne Tees derby? Anyway,
Yeah.
so, important goals, in my opinion. And yes, okay, not maybe someone that jumps off the page when you think about unsung heroes, but then I've gone for my sort of definition when it comes to it. And I just think those 5 goals were really important in that section that he was here from September to December, going into them dark winter months with the games piling up, some of them victories were so important to set themselves up for the final race to the actual end of the season. So come at me in the comments if you want. That's fine, but I'm sticking by me
So
pick.
In based on that argument, then Daryl Murphy will be your third pick.
Well, he could be someone that definitely comes into the way of thinking. Yeah, I mean, he's not my third pick, but if someone's got him in there on their list, and I'm not saying no to that because yeah, he was influential without scoring a boatload of goals. Everyone laughed when he signed, but he turned out to be a
Yeah,
very important character.
yeah, I laughed when he signed. Um,
Yeah,
Look, he did
so
a job. He did look. He did look. He did a job, didn't he? There was a lot of sort of weird signings that season, but it was just a testament to how great of a job Chris Hughton did. Um, yeah, Chris Hughton was saved. Well, he saved Newcastle. He absolutely did, and there was a few signings, particularly in the loan market, that he had to make just to get us by a few games. Fitzhall was another one. Zurab Kizanishvili was another one. He had Arnholt on loan as well, didn't he? Some people forget about that one. And one of my picks is also there, which I'll come on to shortly after I've poo-pooed your Harewood thing. Um, the fact is, we didn't sign him on a permanent. We chose not to, and I think that was the correct decision. And he went to Blackpool and tanked. Did well for West Ham, really well for West Ham, and then that got him the move to Aston Villa, where he started okay and then kind of fell down the pecking order as Villa got slightly more successful under Martin O'Neill.
he got injured, didn't he, at Villa? So that didn't really help his case. But
I
yeah,
don't
look,
think it would have made any difference.
small impact, limited time at Newcastle United, but I think a big impact in that season. Yes, only 5 goals. As a striker, you'd be disappointed. Of course, you'd want to score more than that. But I do think an unsung kind of role in Newcastle's fantastic promotion season. So that's why he's on my list.
Yeah, I missed out the most obvious weird signing that season as well, which was Fabrice Pancrat.
Yeah, see, I was going to mention that, but then you mentioned you've got someone. So I was like, has he picked him?
No, I've not picked Fabrice Pancrat whatsoever. How can you? Yes, very good goal, but other than that's more a sort of one-hit wonder one, isn't it? Rather
Yeah,
than unsung hero. No, I haven't picked Pancrat. Who I have picked actually as my number two choice is Danny Simpson, um,
interesting.
because I think he's one of our best right backs that we've had in the Premier League era, and he
I
doesn't get the
wasn't a big
credit he
fan.
deserves. Why?
I think he got better as he went on, but I think in the beginning he really was not. He was not. He just wasn't very good. I always felt he was a bit out of position, and I remember really being a big critic of him. I just yeah, I think by the time he left, he'd certainly improved, and obviously then he's gone on to Leicester and won the Premier League title, didn't he?
I'd
But
have had him over Debussy every day of the week.
really,
Although
that's a
maybe that's my kind of disappointment in Debussy.
yeah. I think even a disappointing Debussy is better than a fantastic Danny Simpson.
No, Danny Simpson. That season we finished fifth. He was probably the most underrated player we had. He was absolutely superb. I think in the Opta standings for a long time of that season, he was like the highest rated defender in the Premier League. The amount of times he saved us with like goal line clearances was absolutely phenomenal. Um, really heavily contributed to our success that season. I think he was so underrated. Um, why
So
is
I'm
it
just
right?
laughing here, ladies and gents, because you'll probably be aware that every week Sam has this very strange icon come
It's
up
just
on his screen, which is a
yeah.
thumbs up or a thumbs down. And as he mentioned there that Danny Simpson was a very underrated defender, there was a thumbs down appeared on the screen, which is nothing to do with me. It's just
How?
I don't know what it is, but it was the right thumbs. It was pointing the right way because I totally don't agree with you at all.
Why?
No.
I don't understand this one.
Also, I realized that my top is half green, and it seems to be. If you put a picture up of Danny Simpson, he'll appear on my top because it'll be a green screen. Look at that.
Oh
Anyway,
yeah. That's
Yeah, I don't know
weird.
where these icons are coming from, these thumbs up and thumbs down, but clearly
But
someone
yeah,
somewhere has
Danny
not
Simpson.
got it.
I thought this was another obvious one, to be honest.
I
Yeah,
don't
but
think you'll get support in the comments either or on social media. No one's mentioned him in the responses, and I don't think you'll get much support. I mean, you'll get more support probably than my
well,
Marlon Harewood shout.
I don't do this for likes, Andrew. I do this mainly because you ask me. But yeah, people are fine with their opinions, and to disagree, it's not going to affect my day to day life.
Yeah.
But if you do want to agree, please like and subscribe and get in the comments. But yeah, no, Danny Simpson. I was a fan. I really was. I thought he was very very underrated on the pitch.
120 appearances for Newcastle, including the loan spell that he had.
Yeah.
Before moving on to QPR on a free transfer, then to Leicester, as we've mentioned. One of those players who played often in that awful yellow and is it white strip that had
Oh, the
under
custard
Adidas?
cream
Yeah,
is two-tone yellow. It's not yellow and white. It's
two-tone.
kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
like a pale yellow.
Well, I've just noticed everything in the middle: Adidas badge, Newcastle crest, and then the sponsor. Intriguing placement of everything, but yeah, look,
But that season as well, the third kit was absolutely sublime.
which one was that?
So Adidas again, obviously. It was black and blue stripes.
Oh yes, I remember now. Yeah,
It was gorgeous. Well, it is gorgeous. I have it upstairs, but yeah, lovely stuff.
that season that Newcastle finished fifth, Danny Simpson played 40 times in all competitions. Played less the season after, only 26 in all competitions, which is limited considering they were in Europe as well. But he did play 7 times
We
in
got
total.
Debussy in the January, didn't we?
Yeah, which probably prepared to his him being first choice. But Danny Simpson, very interesting one. I will present you now with my third pick, and I've got a couple of names written down. I'll give you the two that very nearly made it, and then I'll have settled on this one. So Clarence Acuna, I've gone as someone who very nearly made it. I feel like Sir Bobby trusted him and really, really liked working with him, and that especially that first season he was here. I think he only played like 40 times. He didn't play a lot, but he was a workhorse, and I think he really offered something that went under the radar for Sir Bobby's team. We've also got Antoine Sobieski, 39 appearances, 8 goals,
Yes,
5
yeah.
assists. He came at a time when Newcastle were really down in the dumps and a very underwhelming signing, but he didn't half
Deadline
work
day
his socks
signing,
off.
wasn't it?
Yeah, worked his socks off, and really endeared himself to the fan base for his efforts. I'll also just quickly mention some of the names that have been thrown in on Twitter. You got David McCreary,
Yeah.
who has been mentioned quite a few times actually. And he's a lovely bloke. I've had the pleasure of being in a couple of games with him recently. Really, really nice chap, and really well liked as well by Toon fans. Tommy Craig's got another mention. There's another person who's been mentioned. Gouffran has come up quite a few times
Was
actually.
never a fan, but obviously that thunderbolt at Derby on the volley was pure filth. But I was never a fan of Gouffran. Got to be honest.
Steve Watson, Scott
Yeah,
Sellers, Kevin Sheedy. Darren Peacock gets quite a few mentions. Fabian Cher even gets a mentioned, particularly for
he
the.
gets plenty of plaudits and
I think he does
praises.
now, but I think this person's having to go at Bruce for the lack of appreciation of Fabian
Oh
Cher. But
no.
David McCreary has come up quite a few times actually on this list.
Mm.
A lot. He's the one who's come up the most. Then you've got people talking Steve Harper, David Kelly, Paul Goodard, Barry Venison, and as we've mentioned, Killer, I can't even say it. Killer Klein. That's a
Killikill
man.
Klein. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Killer. So, but I've gone for Kevin Gallagher.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Because that was going to be probably my fourth choice. Yes.
Sir Bobby's first signing, 1999, came in towards the end of his career and actually ended up being a winger for Newcastle United, but never complained, got his head down, worked his socks off. He admits openly that he's frustrated that he didn't score more goals at Newcastle United, but he thoroughly enjoyed his time 2 seasons he was here. I think by the time he left, he was 34 and he had a couple of injuries in Newcastle, so he was never going to get a new deal. But a bit like Trippier, a bit like Killer, that first sign is always really, really important to be trusted by the new manager to set the standards for not only what's to come in terms of future signings, but also what's already here is massive. It's a big, big responsibility. And Gallagher took it. He took it on his shoulders. He handled it really well. And I think he, I think, I think there'll be a few people that go, he's not unsung. We remember everything he did. We applaud his
I
effort.
think it
But
is.
I think the majority probably, they go, oh yeah, I forgot he played for Newcastle United. But you shouldn't do because he was really, really good for Sir Bobby. And yeah, it speaks a lot about him when Sir Bobby has trusted him to be his first signing.
Yeah, quite often a manager's first signing isn't the most glamorous. It's more so kind of what you need at the time. And yeah, um, Kevin Gallagher, I loved him. I thought he was brilliant. Just um, another sort of workhorse up in that final third for me. I've interviewed him myself on my podcast, the Greenwood and Mulliner Show on Newcastle Fans TV. Listen, like, and review now. We had a brilliant 45 minutes to an hour chatting, about those times and some funny times as well, playing cards with Fumaka. Yeah, it's such a great bloke, and yeah, I could not agree more. I think 2 out of your 3 picks this week have been some of your best ones of the series so far. It's a shame you let yourself down with Marlon Harewood,
Well, I've
but
got to bring a bit of realism into it. I can't be right for the entirety of the
maybe
show.
you
But yeah,
could buy your next car from Marlon, because that's what he does now,
he
isn't he?
does. He sells very expensive cars these days, doesn't he?
Yeah, I couldn't afford it on
Yeah.
my pittance, but I'm sure you could now. You're in the behemoth of Reach PLC's gravy train.
Yeah, no, definitely out of my price range. But yeah, big shout out to Kevin Gall, as you say, lovely bloke. He's been on our podcast a few times as well, and he's just a nice guy, and he understands what this club means to the fan base. Obviously, he had a good relationship with Shearer as well because they won the Premier League title at
Yeah,
Blackburn. So I think that was probably a draw to come to St James's Park. Working for Sir Bobby is another one. And I think, yeah, he's always welcome back with open arms when he does manage to come to St James's Park and take in a game, and that's simply down to the work effort of him because he didn't score enough goals. He didn't. But one thing that will always make you a fan favorite is if you are putting your everything into your performance, you're leaving nothing in the dressing room, and every time you pull on that black and white shirt, that's exactly what he did. So he deserves to be on this list because I do think he doesn't get enough praise really.
fully agree. I cannot even begin to argue with that. I wholeheartedly agree. I think it's a great choice.
Who is your next? Are you on? Are you on your third choice now?
Yeah, this is my
You seem to
final
be
one.
having 10, 20, 30 choices. Is this your third one now?
Yes, this is the final choice of the episode. Now, this is a guy who, under tragic circumstances, has got credit he so richly deserves. But at the time, because there was kind of so many more sort of flair players and players that would take the headlines in such an exciting team, he'd maybe just go under the radar a little bit, and hence why he was a little bit unsung. He's not
Can I
unsung now.
guess? Can I guess?
Please do.
Spider-Man?
No,
Oh, you have just done a stupid dance for no reason. Continue.
no, it's not. It's not Gutierrez. No, it was Sir Bobby's time. So look, during the time, obviously there was Shearer and Bellamy up front grabbing the headlines. We had Dyer, Robert, um, such exciting players, but a guy who had to stick in and do the dirty work and often cover Laurent Robert so Ollie Bernard wasn't left on his own, is Gary Speed. And at the time was a bit unsung because he would just go about his business, do the dirty work, and like I say, so many more um, kind of glamorous players. Speed had switched into centre mid from out wide and was getting on in years, but had a fantastic engine. At the time, he held the record as well for the most Premier League appearances. But as we know, football was invented before 1992, which is why he couldn't add more to the tally.
I've
I
got to say,
just
I disagree hugely, just on the basis that no one underappreciates Gary Speed. I know what you're saying. Since his death, maybe he's become more
this is
appreciated.
yeah, I get that, and that's mainly due to the time. At the time, certainly people of kind of my generation wouldn't didn't really fully appreciate just how necessary he was in that team.
I disagree because I remember watching him at the time and just thinking what a player he was, and understanding how important he was to what Newcastle United were achieving. I think he come from Everton, if I'm not mistaken. It was a very, very good signing. Kenny Dalglish brought him in, didn't he?
Yeah, no, another
Um,
great Kenny signing, as we were discussing last week.
I
He made a lot of good signings.
If you're watching on YouTube, let us know in the comments. I love Gary Speed. He's one of my favorite ever midfielders, as Sam says. The engine on him, probably the best header of a ball I've seen in black and white. The header against Bradford that he scored is up there with one of the best you've ever seen.
PSV,
Yeah, he was absolutely fantastic. And when you talk about building your all time starting 11, he's in the conversation for that centre midfield spot without a shadow of a doubt for me.
but
I do
wasn't
not think
originally a centre mid. Well, was he? He was more of
no,
a.
but that for me growing up. That's where I see him. That's the fondest memories of him being that kind of that midfield, that centre midfield kind of player. I don't think at all he's unsung. I think even before his death, Newcastle United fans thoroughly appreciated him, thoroughly understood what he brought to that team. A lot
I
were
think that was because of maybe when we sold him, and we sold him because we'd signed Nicky Butt essentially, who was doing brilliantly for England at the time. And it just didn't really quite work at Newcastle for Nicky Butt, even though he stayed for a long, long, long time. People forget he was club captain under Chris Hughton when we won the championship. Um, I never really felt that it wholly worked out for Nicky Butt that well at Newcastle.
it didn't, but
And
it was a weird time though, wasn't it? Like
yeah,
that
it
whole
was.
time was very strange.
It was. And then Gary Speed went to Bolton and was just better. Just like,
I think did someone go on record from the club and say they regretted selling? I'm sure they did. Because yeah, he still had so much to offer.
I know, yes,
Um,
he was getting on in years, but my word, he was still just better than like he was getting better with age, like in that role in centre midfield. And I don't think he properly got the recognition he deserved at the time.
okay.
That's
Well,
why he's made my pick, and he was a good player.
when he went to Bolton, so the 2003-4 season, he played 38 times in the Premier League, so all games for Newcastle. He then went to Bolton, where he played 38 times in his debut season, 31 times the season after, 38 times the season after that.
And they
And
got Bolton up to sixth place.
so he went and played a
Bolton.
lot of Premier League football for Bolton. So yeah, it was a massive mistake to sell him.
Bolton Wanderers got up to sixth place. You tell that to a kid now, they'll be like, who are Bolton?
Yeah. Well, the League Two, League One,
You
League
fluctuating
Two.
between, aren't they? Just incredible player, and yeah, should never have sold him when we did. Um, Such a big presence in the dressing room. So many people idolised him. Um, but yeah, just I think he was a bit unsung at the time. Obviously, he's so fondly remembered now, but that's due to horrifically tragic circumstances.
Do you think
Um,
maybe the position he ended up playing in the end, that kind of midfield role, bit more defensive as well, is it those sort of players who maybe don't get noticed at the time? Because Chick
oh, they do
Tiote,
now.
yeah, well, Chick Tiote came into my way of thinking. And again, I think it's only after he left you kind of go, oh wow, like we had a player there. Like you would love to see him in the Premier League today. I mean, VAR would probably be his worst enemy, but he was a fantastic player. But
Yeah,
did he
Warrior.
get did he get the love and appreciation at the time, similar to as your argument for Gary Speed?
Maybe not initially, but I think he did um, under the Pardew years. Um, yeah, I kind of think he did. Um, but yeah, those sort of players did do. I mean, just look at who we signed afterwards. After Speed left, even like after Nicky Butt sent him out on loan to Birmingham City, and we had like Andy Fye, and you just like seeing, like you said there, Gary Speed playing at what 34, 35 years of age, 30 plus games in the Premier League, and getting them up to sixth place finishes, FA Cup runs, and just that was the most brilliant Bolton team, wasn't it? It had so many experienced players in there, mixed with a bit of flair with the likes of JJ Okocha. Yeah, it just he took so much replacing, and that tells you just how good he was.
Yeah, no, he was an absolutely fantastic player. I'm just trying to work out how old he was when he actually moved to Bolton. I think he was 34, 35, I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and then
Um,
after Bolton, was he player coach at Sheffield United for a while?
Not too sure.
Because he
Yeah,
he definitely ended up as assistant manager, because I don't know if you remember, I think his final time um, kind of within football was Gary Speed getting sent off or sent to the stands when he was assistant manager at Sheffield United the night we got confirmed promoted back to the Premier League when we beat them 2-1. Yeah, Gary Speed got sent off,
I don't remember
which
that.
which was just so unlike him. But yeah,
He was 34 when he went to Bolton, and then played on for another 4 years or so, just absolutely stealing the
which
show.
9 times out of 10, you're selling a 34-year-old midfielder, you'd think, yeah, that's about right. Not in that case. He's
Huge
the one.
mistake.
He was the one.
Well, there we have it. Newcastle United's unsung heroes that will keep us entertained on a desert island. I hope you guys have enjoyed the episode. I'll just remind you quickly of my picks. Kath Cassidy, the tea lady. Marlon Harewood. Yes, I'm expecting some pelters for that. And Kevin Gallagher. Sam, who have you gone for?
Aaron Hughes, Danny Simpson, and the late great Gary Speed.
There we go, ladies and gents. Let us know in the comments your picks for unsung heroes. Let us know as well any categories that you want us to cover. We're really enjoying this series and we're going to keep it running and running and running. We want your input as well. The email address to get in contact is the eibwpodcast@reachplc.com. We do read all the comments as well, and you know where to find us on social media. For myself and Sam, thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week.